Hi, everybody. So today I'm here to provide reading updates for you for the past couple weeks. The last time I did a reading update was a couple of weeks ago for my April wrap-up, and then my plans for May TBR and Asian Readathon. So I'm here to provide updates on those books. I'm going to start by briefly mentioning the ratings for the books I have returned to the library already. Those books are The Berry Pickers, which I gave 4.5 stars to. The Matzo Ball, which I also gave 4.5 stars to. That was for the Friends and Gilmore Girls TBR. Portrait of a Thief, which I gave 4 stars to. Where We Once Belonged, which is right here, which I am giving 4.5 stars to. This is going back the next time I go to the library. And let's see. So I did all of those. And I think the only book I haven't reviewed from this list yet was Gay Girl Prayers, which is a poetry collection by Emily R. Austin, who wrote We Would Be Rats, Everyone in This Room Will One Day Be Dead, and Interesting Facts About Space. So to go over the ratings of all of her books. Gay Girl Prayers got 5 stars. Interesting Facts About Space got 4.5. Everyone in This Room Will One Day Be Dead got 4. We Will Be Rats got 2.5. I also recently finished Fragile Sanctuary by Catherine Cowles, which I gave 5 stars to. And now for books that I have physically here. For Asian Readathon, my current read is Connie, a memoir. This is the memoir of Connie Chung, who is a co-anchor for the CVS Evening News. And I love reading biographies of people who are journalists, because if you guys don't already know this, I went to study, I graduated with a BA in communications from New England College in Henniker, New Hampshire in 2008, and during my communication studies, I was both part of the radio station and a newspaper, and I was also in the newspaper when I was in high school, and I just love learning about professionals who are in the field of journalism, because I can gain inspiration from what they have learned about. And Connie Chung is one of the news anchors I have always admired throughout my life. The other two are Diane Sawyer and Christiane Amanpour, who actually Rory Gilmore idolizes in Gilmore Girls. So I just started this book yesterday, and I'm not very far into it yet. I am only on chapter 7, page 51. The next book I wanted to mention was The Immortalist by Chloe Benjamin. This book was mentioned in Gabby Reads' If You Like This, Read That. If You Like This, Read That. And she paired this book up with The Measure, and I can see why, because the theme of this book is very similar to this book in Here One Moment by Leanne Moriarty, which is like, what would you do if you had a certain amount of time to live your life? And if you only had a certain amount of days to live before you die, what would you do? So those themes carry on through this book, The Measure, which I still need to read, and Here One Moment. Here One Moment got 3 stars because I was kind of depressed in a slump by the end. And this book got 4 stars. The next book I wanted to talk about this morning is Chocolat by Joanne Harris, which was mentioned in a book I recently finished called The Tiniest Little Bake Shop in Paris by Jenny Colgan. This book is set in Paris, France, and it is about she is a person who owns a bakery, and I really love this book and all the references to food in it, and I really like learning about Paris culture because this takes place during Carnival, the heels of a Carnival festival opening. So I really want to see the movie now just so I can get an aspect of what the scenery is like, because that's what I like about seeing movie interpretations of books. Like, for example, Kathleen and I recently watched the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants movie, and my favorite scenes in that movie was the scenes when Lena, who is played by Alexis Bledel from Gilmore Girls, was in her family visiting Greece. Kathleen and I will be going more into detail about our book-to-movie comparison of Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, in the next part of our podcast, the full podcast video will be out on June 2nd. Kathleen and I are filming part 2 of it with Matt at art class on May 18th. The next book I am reading for the From Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR is Matthew Perry's memoir, Friends, Lovers, and a Big Terrible Thing. As I have said in my last video, I have read this book 2 or 3 other times before. What keeps me going back to it is that since Matthew Perry's death in October 2023, it has been comforting to listen to the audiobook, to hear him narrate the story of his life, even though it was sad and ended tragically. So I am currently on chapter 6, which is titled Bruce Willis. The next book on my From Manhattan to Stars Hollow TBR is Intermezzo, which was Sally Rooney's release from last September. This has been an anticipated book on my backlist TBR since it first came out, and it took a while to come in at the library because there were so many people ahead of me in line to read it. I finally got it on Tuesday. So what to say about this book? First of all, I heard this book was mentioned in a video that Diet Taylor, Diaries of Creativity, made, where she talks about what books would Rory Gilmore read if Gilmore Girls was on today. I think that Rory would definitely read this book. I'm not sure if she would like it. I'm not sure if I like it. It's about 2 brothers named Peter and Ivan. I can relate to Ivan's character because as a teenager, I am socially awkward. The 2 main characters in this book are dealing with the loss of their dad, and they grieve the loss of their dad in different ways. Sally Rooney's writing is really hard for me to read because she doesn't use quotation marks, and that's very irritating because it's hard to tell when you are leaving an exit in conversation because there are no quotation marks. Her writing is beautiful. I just hate the fact that she doesn't use quotation marks. So the pacing of this book is way too slow for me, and I'm probably going to DNF it at the moment. I am on page 428, chapter 12, and does this book need to be 657 pages long? No. I think whatever is going on with these characters could have been easily resolved in like 200 less pages. So, yeah, this book is a little bit too long for me, and it's also getting kind of boring. So, it's going to likely be a DNF. The next highly anticipated new release is Story of My Life, which is Lucy Score's new release from March. So this is a romance comedy that is based at this is a romantic comedy book that she said was inspired by Schitt's Creek, and as you know, besides Friends and Gilmore Girls, Schitt's Creek is one of my favorite TV shows. So that's what got me hooked on wanting to read this book. And also, I read Lucy Score's Knock 'Em Out series last year, and I really loved her writing and the relationship development between all of the characters in that series. My favorite couple in the Knock 'Em Out series is Knox and Naomi, and one of my favorite kid characters in the book is in that series. Her name is Waylay, and she's so funny, and her wit and sarcasm totally reminds me of Chandler. So this book focuses on Hazel, who is a thriving romance novelist, until a breakup drive her straight into writer's block. So, kind of, in a way, think of Beach Read, because January and Gus also have writer's block. So, desperate for inspiration, she buys a historic home online and flees Manhattan to tiny Story Lake, Pennsylvania. Upon her dramatic arrival, involving an incident with a bald eagle, she describes the charm of her new home may have been slightly exaggerated. But Hazel doesn't care, since all 6'3" of grouchy contractor Campbell Bishop slapped a bandage on her forehead and unintentionally inspired the heck out of her. There's only one thing to do: that hire Cam and his equally gorgeous brothers to renovate the new Spider Museum at her house. Cam wants to say no. Hazel's got trouble written all over her, but if his family business is going to stay afloat, they need the job. Besides, he's certain Hazel won't last a month in rural Pennsylvania. Before she knows it, she's writing a romance novel and living one, at least until she has to save the town, and Cam remembers exactly why he doesn't do relationships. So I'm very excited for this book and to see how the relationship between Lucy and Hazel and Cam will develop. So I am anticipating this book will be 4.5 stars. The next book I'm reading is Reckless by Lauren Roberts. This is the second book in the Powerless trilogy. I need to be caught up on this series because the latest release in this series just came out at the beginning part of last month. So I just started reading this series last fall, and I took a break because I was really into rereading Harry Potter. So now that I am back into this series, I am currently on chapter 10 of Reckless, and then I will read the novella, Powerful, and then the recent release, which is called Fearless. So I gave Powerless 3 stars just because I had a hard trouble getting adjusted to this new series and the characters. It's also YA, and I had mixed results with YA books throughout all of last year because it's not the target for my age range. But with certain books, I was able to relate to the characters' experiences in certain ways. This book is fun. It's a fantasy romance, and it focuses on Kai and Peyton. And I really love the enemies to lovers relationship build-up. This book focuses more on their relationship, and I'm really enjoying seeing how it develops. So Lauren Roberts apparently wrote the first book in this series during the pandemic. And I mean, I applaud her for writing such a good book. It's just that I had trouble getting adjusted to this new series and the characters, but based on my 3-star experience with the first book, I can predict that this book will actually be rated a little bit higher, probably in between 4 to 4.5 stars, depending on how the romance and fantasy elements bind together, how the relationship builds up, etc. The next book I'm reading is called Mr. Perfect on Paper by Jean Meltzer. This is my 4th book by this author. I just recently finished reading my 3rd book by her, The Matzo Ball, a couple of days ago. This author writes a lot about the Jewish faith because she's Jewish. And I really enjoyed these books. These are standalone books, so they're not part of a series. The other 3 books I have read by her are The Matzo Ball, which I just finished on Tuesday, and Kissing Kosher, which both of those books are set during Hanukkah. This book is set during Rosh Hashanah, and her recent release, Magical Mute Cute, is more of a Halloween/witchy book that came out last October. So what I really like about this author's books is that, first of all, it educates me more about the Jewish faith. As I mentioned before when I was talking about the matzo ball in my last video, I was raised Jewish. I was raised Catholic. But when I was living in New Hampshire, I knew people who were Jewish because my friend Ariel Kaplan is Jewish, and my friends Naomi and Hannah Cohen are also Jewish. So it's very interesting learning about the Jewish faith and their practices through these books. With the matzo ball, another thing that I like about Jean Meltzer's books is her disability representation. I can't remember if there was any disability representation in Magical Meet Cute or not, but in this book, the main female character has anxiety, and in Kissing Kosher and the Matzo Ball, both of the characters have chronic illnesses. I don't remember what exact chronic illness the Kissing Kosher main female protagonist has, but in the Matzo Ball, she has a disorder that has her have trouble sleeping, chronic sleep. I have to look it up. I don't remember. But I really liked how Kissing Kosher and the Matzo Ball really educated me more about these disorders for chronic illness, because I have a friend I was friends with in New Hampshire who has a chronic illness, and like seeing what these characters go through gave me insight to what she might go through. And it's interesting to know what these characters go through and the medications they take and the coping mechanisms they have. The main female character in this book, her name is Dara. She runs a dating app company for people who are Jewish. So, this story is how she ends up meeting somebody through her own dating app and the relationship that builds through that situation. But what makes this character relatable for me, much like Jacob from Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, is that Dara has anxiety. So she has generalized anxiety like I do. And it talks about what she goes through for her coping mechanisms, much like Jacob talks about in and yours truly. So this book, unlike Kissing Kosher and the Matzah Ball, is set during Rosh Hashanah, which is the fall Jewish high holy holiday. And it's really interesting to learn about how people celebrate Rosh Hashanah, because I don't know much about it. And so far, I think my favorite scene in this book is, let's see. Is when Chris and Dara first start their relationship. I just think their build up to their relationship is really great, and I've enjoyed seeing it grow. And yes, I am on Team Chris. The other discussion question is, are you Team Chris or Team Dr. Daniel? And I think I'm definitely Team Chris. I like him a lot better than Dr. Daniel because it seems like him and Dara have more in common. So the Matzah Ball got 4.5 stars, and this book is probably going to be rated the same. The next book that I'm reading right now is called Lies We Sing to the Sea by Sarah Underwood, and I saw this video on Millie Reads a Lot, May TBR video, and the reason why I decided to read it too is because I love Greek mythology retellings. All of Jennifer Saint's books have been 5 stars for me. The Song of Achilles was 4.5 stars. This book is a modern retelling of the Odyssey, and I'm really, really, really enjoying it. I am currently on page 156, chapter 23. So this book will probably be 4.5 stars, and thank you, Millie, for the recommendation. This book has also been a long anticipated hold. Actually, I just put it on hold recently at the library, and it came in right away. This is The Wager by David Gran. This is by the same guy who wrote Killers of the Flower Moon, and A Book Olive recommended it in her video to pair up fiction and nonfiction books. And she paired this book up with Lord of the Flies, and I can see how it would be similar because it's about pirates and washing up on an abandoned island and survival. I haven't started this yet, but I'm looking forward to starting it as soon as I finish rereading Friends, Lovers, and a Big Terrible Thing. So thank you for tuning in. If you have read any of these books, please tell me what you think. And if you liked Intermezzo and can convince me to read it to the end, please leave a comment as well, because I am open to any opinions of this book and see what people like about it. Maybe I might change my mind and finish it, but right now I'm considering DNFing it. Thank you. Have a good weekend, and be sure to pamper your moms on Sunday for Mother's Day.